Hey guys, Karen Burchill here, Creative Katie. Welcome to an art journal tutorial. This one's kind of a double whammy. We feature a technique and it's part of the color scheme challenge. Here's the finished page. So the colors in this color scheme are green, yellow, cobalt teal, and deep violet. You can use any turquoise, you can use any violet purpley color as well. They will work. Now I'm going to show you what I do with the color scheme. Is part of the challenge is learning how these colors play together so you can use that knowledge to either do something on purpose or avoid something on purpose. So I'm just swatching out the colors in this little book, and I'll put a link to the video where I talk about how to set up this book. So that's the cobalt teal. And I'm just swatching them straight out of the tube here. Now this little book is kind of a reference guide that I can flip through if I'm looking for a color scheme or if I'm looking for a certain color by blending the colors that I have. So now that the colors are swatched out straight up, what I'm going to do is mix the colors on my glass mat together to see what colors and what shades I get by mixing those two colors. So the teal and the green yellow give this lovely green color. If I add more blue, it's going to be on the one side. If I add more green yellow, it's going to be on the other. The cobalt teal and the deep violet make this beautiful purple here that I absolutely love. There, I closed the blinds. I was causing some grief. Now the green yellow and the deep violet, when you mix them together, make this, it's not a bad color, it's a muted color, but it's not something I'm going to want necessarily. And if I mix all three, I get this actually very nice gray. So I might actually do that on purpose. So I just label them with the colors that I have. And again, use the colors that you have. And because there's slightly different pigments, then you're going to know exactly what your colors are going to get should you blend them together. So because I'm using the reversing the stencil technique, or keeping your brights bold on a black background, I'm starting the page by gessoing it with black gesso. This is Crafter's Workshop black gesso. And I admit, recently I did another video, and I don't know if it's going to play before this one or after this one, but I did reverse this stencil technique. And when I pulled out other possible stencils that I thought might work, I really wanted to try this stencil. It's called Art Deco Leaves, and it's from the Crafter's Workshop. And I really thought, like, this stencil is going to look really good with this technique. It's got those wide open spots where I'm going to put those bright colors. And I'm just taping this down because, for the most part, I don't want the stencil to move. So I'm just adding that extra layer of protection in there. So the first step to this reversing the stencil technique, or keeping your colors bright and bold on a black background, is to now paint through the stencil with gesso or white acrylic paint. And usually I go over it more than once, putting less paint on because I want to avoid it seeping under the stencil. And if you have too much paint on your makeup sponge, that's what will happen. And while it looks like I'm going fairly fast because this video is sped up, it simply takes time. So I'm putting the gesso through the stencil because where the white is right now, that's where I want to put color. And if I put the color straight on the black, it would be very dull. It would give a very different effect, which you may like and you may want to try out. But I want to keep those colors really, really bold. So I do go back and give this a couple coats and I let it dry. I don't use the heat tool with my stencil on it, and I leave my stencil on it. So because I did the color swatching in the book, I know that I don't want to put the green and the purple together. So I'm going to put purple, then teal, then green. And I know that when they overlap, they're going to make a nice color. And I'm going to avoid that color that I wasn't too fond of. So I'm putting the green yellow at the bottom, and I'm trying to work quickly here because I want to, when I overlap it, I want to blend those colors straight on the page with the wet sponge. So when we're done, even though I've only used 3 colors, you're going to end up with 5 colors or shades. I love this technique because it's so dramatic, because you really don't see what you have until you lift up the stencil, and then it's like, oh, I love it, hopefully. Just adding a little bit more to get the depth of color that I want. And the blend that I want. You can just keep playing till you're happy. And the moment of truth. Don't you love it? It's like peacock feathers, and it flows. It's got motion. I love, love, love this stencil, and this technique really shows it off spectacularly. Now, I did have a little bit where maybe the stencil moved and I was showing the white. So I am showing here that you can clean that up. I just grabbed a fine line brush and I'm using thinned acrylic paint and just filling in, so it's getting rid of some of that white. Now I'm playing with focal images. What do I want to do here? Grabbing things that are on my desk, little bits and bobs, and playing with it. And I'm thinking, okay, I need to do something else to the background here as well. As spectacular as it is, so I grabbed my 1-inch punch and I punched out a bunch of circles and I put them on there and I painted some black, and I'm placing that on there. And what a nice detail that is. It's a great way to add to the stencil. Change it up. Now I could have painted these the colors that I had in the background. You can play up with anything you want. But I'm liking the contrast with the black and white dots. I played again with the same focal images and I took pictures, and that's what you're seeing now. Do I like it? I actually like this one. The other ones, they're a little too small. It's just made it a little too busy in mine, so I would go with something larger. Then I had this giraffe that was there, and this is just clip art. And I didn't even paint it. It was printed in the grayscale, and I kind of like that. The background is really colorful here, but it's not white, and I like that as well. So I'm just positioning the sentiment and finalizing where I want it to go. And I'm thinking this would be beautiful on a canvas in a child's room. Let the adventure begin, or so-and-so's room with their favorite animal. I do want to take this giraffe and paint. I wasn't brave enough to do it today, but I would just paint the basic shapes on here with gesso and then paint them whatever color I wanted them to be. So stay tuned. This isn't the last of this giraffe, but I'm going to use the shapes. I think it's simple enough for me to do, and I'm going to try. So I got rid of some of the white or black dots, depending on what I was gluing down. And a bit of from the black gesso actually lifted. So I kind of got some on the white dots, which you'll maybe see me wiping off with the baby wipe, because I wanted them to stay true white. If it had done too bad, I could have just come in with white paint and repainted them. But they were just raw paper. They were not painted or sealed in any way, so that might have added to the problem. I could have put hearts in the middle. I could have done anything. So play with your whatever punches you have. I only have a few circle punches and one star one, I think. And there I'm wiping off, cleaning them up a little bit. A lot of times with the color scheme challenge or anything, when you have your colors, then you need some black and some white to make everything really work together. After everything's dry, I'm coming in with my angle brush and the floating acrylic technique, and I'm just shading. I want to make this a little bit more mine. I want it to really pop from the background, so I am shading around it. And remember, I glued it down, the matte medium, so it's now become a non-porous surface, and that's important. And you can do that by putting the matte medium down, making sure it's covered everything on the raw. This is just on copy paper. Or you can put a coat of clear gesso, that will do the same thing. If you were painting this giraffe, what color would you paint it? That was probably one of the big reasons why I didn't. I didn't know what color to paint it. Just shading around the circles. Again, that's just to make it look like everything is together. I do another page. There's leftover paint from this project, and I take it and I brayer it onto the next page, which is the last page in this journal. And I will put a link to that video, but you can look for it and see 2 pages using the exact same colors, very different looks, because the possibilities really are endless. Thank you so much for joining me. Follow me on Instagram at Creative Katie. Give me a thumbs up. Be sure you're subscribed. Check to see that you're being notified of upcoming videos. Get creative.